Have you ever wondered how someone can go from very little swimming experience to becoming competitive in the pro triathlon field and consistently swimming under 1:15 per 100 in the half Ironman event? Welcome to our channel. Today we are diving into the inspiring journey of Mitch Kibby, a professional triathlete and coach. Mitch will share how he was able to go from being a non-swimmer to top 16 in the world at the half Ironman distance, focusing on the technique and the strategies that got him there. Whether you're just starting out or looking to up your game, Mitch's story and tips will show you how he was able to transform from being a novice swimmer to a pro-level swimmer and competitor.
Yeah, so anyone who's spent time in the water with me coaching probably knows I've got a phrase for everything or plenty of cues. So there's probably too many to reel off, but some of my favourite ones are balance before power. And I think what I see quite commonly is we want to go in there and give really strong effort to our swimming, but we're applying force before our body's ready to control it. And that's where we see sort of energy wastage and an inefficient technique. So balance before power is one of those ones that just allows us to control where we're applying our force. And it's a powerful thing for the swimmer to have in their mind, because that balance component gives you the composure and the power gives you the control to know that you're swimming on your terms rather than being dictated to. So the kick's really important. I think for me, it's probably been one of the last pieces of the puzzle that I've pulled into my freestyle stroke. One of the important things that I consider is just the tension that you're holding around your knees. I often find that if you can keep the knees tight together, that helps to connect through the core and just bring the upper body and the lower body together. So holding a level of tension between the knees helps keep the kick tight, which also assists your stroke rate. I find that if you can keep the kick nice and narrow, the arms will turn over a little bit freer and you won't notice that same dead spot in your stroke as the kick splays and comes back together. So I think one of the really valuable things to work on is just your kick with a kickboard. While it can be quite different to swimming and kicking during the freestyle stroke, but I think just learning how to kick and basically how not to exhaust yourself with the kick is really valuable. So I think it's really important to be able to breathe to both sides when you're swimming. Not necessarily just for the mechanics of the right side versus left side swimming, but I think more so just for your composure. So I'd prefer to look at it breathing as managing the air in versus air out balance. So that way it doesn't matter what your stroke cycle is, whether it's 2 strokes, 3 strokes or more. It's much more about just being able to manage the pressure in your chest basically, and being able to reset anytime you need. So I think one of the problems is if you get stuck in a breathing pattern, quite often that means we're going to hold our breath and that'll end up exhausting us in the water. So having access to release that air either on the right side or the left side, I think is really important. And for me, when I'm swimming, it's very much, I'm just aware of what that balance is, and I want to make sure that I can release and reset any side, anytime. But typically in the pool, I'd much rather breathe to the left-hand side, and in the open water, I'd prefer to breathe to the right-hand side, where I find it a little bit easier to sight off that left lead arm. But I haven't met too many other people that have that same preference. So if you are, let us know in the comments. So I think it's quite typical to rotate a little more to the side that you're breathing on. So that's something that I'm quite aware of. And if I'm breathing right side, quite often I'll try and drive that right side back through the stroke. So as I'm moving forward, I'll drive to reset, rather than just trying to always lock out that rotation, which again, you will try and do. So long as you're driving back through the stroke, I think you're going to find that you're getting that sort of equal counter rotation on each side. So catch and pull are probably the 2 marquee terms used in swimming, and it's what we all want to focus on. I think for me, the way that I would define it is certainly with the catch, the starting catch position is really important. So there's many things that come into that, which is your mobility and your posture in the water. But I think having a starting catch as high as comfortably possible or sustainably possible for you is really important, so you can access that first part of the water, and then it just gives you that little bit more to connect with at the top of the stroke. And then I think what I'm really looking to do is have the fingertips trigger the movement. So first part of the movement comes pressing the fingers down, and then as I move into the catch, I'm really mostly trying to get the channel that I'm pulling through to be as effective as possible. So I think typically if you haven't given yourself time to set up through the catch, you'll end up pressing down and wide and then being left in a position that's not as powerful through the pull phase. So setting up through the catch is really important. I like to stabilize. This is where it's balance before power. And then I think for me, over the years, I've spent so much time working both with TheraBands and swim cords to try and get that movement of the elbow, to get that fold through the elbow. And so that's something that I don't spend a lot of time thinking about now, because it should just be happening automatically. I think you could probably always do it better, but I'd much prefer just to connect with the water early and then focus on that channel that I'm pulling through and making sure that my hand is pulling inside the line of the elbow. Okay, so if we're pulling outside the line, I'd say you're moving someone else's water, so you're going to be in a much more powerful position if you're catching inside the line of the elbows. So I think swimming fast is something that hasn't always been particularly natural for me. The way I've developed as a swimmer has been really developing that sort of aerobic style of swimming, which is that more distance-based sort of sustainable, continuous style swimming. So when I'm moving towards speed, I've always had the tendency to muscle up a little bit and get quite tense in the water. So one of the most important things is just staying free through the shoulders, being able to relax and trying to keep that catch nice and narrow and a little bit shallower than what I feel like I need to. So just making sure I'm folding, and then I'm really just trying to trust that technically I'll hold up, and then really just work on the rating, the breathing. Your breathing rate needs to match your intensity, so you can't just be locked in a distance breathing pattern when you're trying to swim fast. So really trying to make sure I'm releasing air fast enough, and then keeping the chin tucked in and basically just going for it. I've been really lucky to work with some great triathlon and swim coaches, and I think one of the most important things they've taught me is just to understand the time that it takes to get what you want out of swimming. And I think I'm someone who would always really judge the day's swim, or sort of be a little bit too emotional about how I was in the water. And I think they've taught me just to sort of take a longer term approach, and just accept the bad days in the water, just get through the set, smile about it at the end, and just make sure you're able to turn up the next day and go again. The biggest lesson that I could share with any swimmer who's starting out their journey is just to accept the amount of time that it will take. There's no one swim set that's going to give you a breakthrough. It's really the sum of many that adds up. And I think the company you keep in the water is so important. So you need to find yourself a good coach, find yourself some mates to swim with, and it needs to be part of your lifestyle. It's not something that you're just going to be able to do for a few weeks and break through, because the better you get, the better you're going to want to get. So you're always going to want more. So it's about making swimming sustainable and enjoying the journey.